Next up, we have Douglas Santos. Douglas is the Director of Advanced Threat Intelligence for FortiGuard Labs at Fortinet. He's an innovator in the state-of-the-art in cyber threat intelligence and manages a team of researchers and engineers. Douglas is a wonderful partner with MITRE's Center for Threat-Informed Defense in our research program. In particular, Douglas and his team keep us honest because Douglas ensures that what the center creates in research can be deployed as tools and standards in Fortinet's products. Douglas is going to give us essential knowledge of an emerging threat vector and equip you with the tools and insights you need to counter evolving APT tactics. Welcome, Douglas Santos.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you, John, for inviting me here. It's both a pleasure and an honor to be here. I have a fancy title, Advanced Threat Intelligence Director, but that can be explained. As Sunil already gave some background, I collaborate with them trying to, advance the state of the art when it comes to threat intelligence tools, techniques, and standards. And I'm also an advocate inside Fortinet so we can get those beautiful things that we're doing implemented both in our products and in our backend processes as well. I also lead a team of threat intelligence researchers and APT threat hunters, which collaborates with government agencies worldwide so we can track those threat actors of interest. And when we find specific threats that have new techniques or new implementations of old techniques, we try to emulate them and see how we can build detections around that in our products. And in one of those daily routines that we go through, we found a specific new attack vector using one of the most used and now abused Windows frameworks, which is the MSC files. So we found the first one, actually it wasn't us, it was specifically an APT, so it was actually Kimsuki back in April. So we started developing ERA signatures and tracking those, and we see that about 7 clusters of activity, as I'll show you guys. So we started tracking them back in April, and we're able, sorry, I was light here, sorry. Anyway. So let's dive into the history of APT MSC weaponization. So as I told you guys, we started tracking them back in April. It wasn't really our finding, but after we started developing new ERA signatures and tracking infrastructure and everything, we got a hold of a lot of new ways to do the MSC APT weaponization. So we were able to identify at least 7 clusters of activity, with the biggest one being actually Kimsuki, which is a well-known, one of the oldest APT threat actors based out of allegedly North Korea, right? But also China-aligned ones are very much active and started using this specific initial attack vector, which is very convincing if you're not tech savvy, specifically because of the capabilities of the MSC files and how ubiquitous and how used it is in the specific Windows operating system. There's a lot of tools that you use every day that uses this specific subsystem. It has access to system structures and resources. So when we started drawing a timeline, there was a huge spike in August and September, and I was like, there's got to be a logical explanation for this. And there was. So most of these threat actors were actually targeting South Korea and Southeast Asian countries. And doing a little bit of research, I found out that there's a lot of festivities around that specific time of the year in South Korea. And there was also some increased military tensions with North Korea doing some nuclear testings, I think in the Sea of Japan. So most of these attacks were targeting human rights activists and government officials. So we always see that a cyber conflict precedes digital conflict. So we've seen this over the Middle East and in Ukraine as well. That's always the case. It happens more often than we think. So there was a few specific events here. I guess National Liberation Day was August 15. CU Light DDP, some cultural festivities as well. and a big holiday in South Korea that's called Chuseok holiday. That's almost just 2 days, I guess. It's a traditional holiday, celebrated when they have, tensions are high and they're just, basically doing festivities around their liberation and everything. So one of the first campaigns, and here we already started seeing some similarities, and we're able to draw the specific techniques that they're using. This first campaign that used the MSC file, they were doing impersonation through Facebook. So the North Korean threat actor was impersonating a South Korean government employee. And through Facebook, they were engaging with other government employees and human rights activists to build confidence and a little bit of a relationship with them. And once they were able to get that person interested in what they are willing to share, they shared through a Google platform. So this is OneDrive, an Word document, that MSC file that was disguised as a Word document. And I'll show you guys how that can be done. It's very easy, and this is how they get to entice users to click on that. So once the user clicked on that, this was one of the first interactions of the weaponization. So when they clicked on the MSC file that was disguised as a Word document, it actually still prompted the user. So there was an ActiveX warning. Once the user clicked OK, then there was a command and scripting interpreter that scheduled a task that executed a VBS script, which downloaded actually a Word document just to, to get the user. So there's an actual Word document here. I wasn't actually tripping. And then the VBS file actually downloaded the last stage payload. So taking a look at this specific kind of like attack flow, we see a little bit of techniques which we'll be tracking on the other campaigns. So we have use of social media, Google Cloud Services to deliver payload, the use of MSC to disguise as any other thing, any other application, in this case, Word, command and scripting interpreter, task scheduling, and dropping a Word document in the user directory. So that was the very first campaign. And then we started tracking on this campaign on September 2024. It was one of my researchers that he actually found. They were also impersonating South Korean government officials, but this time they were doing via phishing emails. And this time they were disguising Zoom as MSC. So you see there's the same technique. Then they were using command and scripting interpreter as well, but this time with PowerShell. The PowerShell was connecting to the attacker C2 and was actually downloading a legitimate Zoom application to make sure that the user's like, okay, I click on something, there's actually a Zoom installer here. So yeah, this is okay. So then they downloaded a new script to do a task schedule that was executing a VBS that was calling to a Google OneDrive, but the payload was not available at the time of the research. So let's talk a little bit about how one can weaponize MSC files to deliver payloads and entice users to click on it. A little bit of history on MSC files. They are known as Microsoft Saved Console files. They're so ubiquitous and everyone has used it. If everyone has ever used regedit, event viewer, group policy editor, it's how it works. It uses the Microsoft Management Console.exe to execute it. So it's a very, how can I say, it's embedded into the operating system. So the MSC files are basically XML structures that are open by the mmc.exe. And once you, this is the funny part, because when you actually execute an MSC file, you always get this prompt saying, hey, you're actually gonna be dealing with system structures and resources, you sure wanna do this? And you click as and the regedit opens, right? So this is how it actually works. But in July 2024, researchers at Elastic, they found out that you could actually do this and not actually trigger any warnings. So that was called Grim Resource, right? So basically for the ActiveX to not be prompted they have to use something called transform node obfuscation. So you completely bypass the security warning. So all the user has to do is click on it, and everything is executed. There's no actual prompt or security warnings or anything. And the green resource technique actually uses a node XSS flaw in a DLL that's called APTs DLL. With that, you can actually call a JavaScript to be executed, which is embedded into the MSC file itself. So it's a very good way to entice users to click on it, because there's also a provision for you to create, specify the icon you wanna have it. So imagine a non-savvy tech user. Really? Okay. Wow. Okay. So this is how it actually works. This is the MSC file, and you can see here that on console root, you can actually define specific JavaScript to be executed. And there's the APTs call here. So that DLL has actually a JavaScript XSS flaw, which can basically call that script, and then you get execution on top of that. But there's also a command line provision test type command line, and you can execute. But that one on the black screen, it's actually prompts you for the security ActiveX warning. So this one doesn't. So this is basically how it works. I'm just opening this on Notepad. You'll see that there's just an XML. The icon can be completely configured, and most users don't actually have the type there, so they don't know it's a Microsoft document, console document. You can put it as a PDF, as a folder, and if you click on it, you see that there's no warning at all. It just executes. It works beautifully for initial access. So coupled with that, we saw the first ever remote app domain injection. So app domain injection is a technique that has been around for quite some time. It was included in MITRE in 2020, but it was actually seen the first time in 2017. So app domain is basically a sandbox where DLLs that want to provide functionality for a net executable can be imported, and the app domain injection, the app domain actually provides security control. So something that happens badly on a DLL, if the DLL crashes, it's not going to kill the binary. So it's deprecated and no longer supported. Now it does assembly load context class. And basically, because they're using assembly load context class, there's no .config file anymore. So this will likely die. So the first instance that was found on the wild was using app domain injection remotely. You can see that this is the config file. It actually references a JPEG that's actually a DLL. And one of the most interesting things is that you can completely disable any logging on the operating system at the kernel level by just typing in ETW enable files. So you'll be completely invisible to the system. The only thing you need to do is sign the remote DLL, so it can be actually imported, and anyone can actually sign it. You can just create a DLL that will load a Metasploit payload, and then create a public key pair, sign it, and then you can load it remotely. So one of the things we're doing, we're just emulating a remote app domain injection to see what are the detection capabilities we need to develop on Fortinet products to actually detect it. So this is actually a good one for NDR and EDR. It can be done. And here I'm just showcasing how we can emulate. So this is the definition of the DLL in C++. Some things need to match, because this is on Notepad, is the .config file that will actually instruct the app domain manager to load the DLL. So some things have to match. So detection opportunities. So because of the way that app domain DLLs are loaded, they completely bypass the operating system ETW. Green resource, I guess the best way to do it is looking for write, copy, execute memory permissions. And because it loads DLLs that are not actually loaded by the MMC, like JavaScript, VBScript, you can build ER rules, Sigma rules to detect the loading of those DLLs. and the redirect on init cache folder. Same thing for app domain injection. Finding specific memory regions within Net's executable programs is a good way. And obviously, once you find a kind of suspicious malicious payload inside the Net executable, you can look for functions that are imported, like obfuscate base 64 obfuscation, memory handling, and thread manipulation. That's a good indication that something bad is actually happening. Yep, that's it. I guess it's it was time. Yeah. Thanks.